Why do lines slow down at theme parks? Lines slow down for a variety of reasons at every theme park. While every ride is designed to handle crowds differently, there are a few reasons that constantly delay operations and cause queue lines to take longer than they should. Reason number 1, ride admission policy. Ride admission policy is a set of requirements that all riders must meet in order to safely ride a ride or attraction. These requirements include height requirements, physical conditions, medical conditions, and riders of larger size. All of these requirements are posted at the entrance to a ride and may be missed by some guests upon entering the line. In an effort to screen riders to ensure that all ride admission policies requirements are met, some parks have opted to place associates at the entrance of rides and also provide test seats for riders who are unsure if the ride restraints may accommodate them. However, these associates are still human, and sometimes a rider may need to be rechecked or removed if they do not meet these requirements, even after they have made it to the ride platform. Also, not every park has associates at the entrance to a ride and fully relies on the platform associates to be responsible for enforcing the ride admission policies. So anytime an operator suspects that a guest may not meet these requirements, they must delay operation to ensure that the guest is safe to ride. The most efficient way to prevent a delay in operations related to ride admission policy is to ensure you meet all the rider requirements before riding a ride. Reason number 2, guest illnesses. From time to time, a guest may become ill while on the ride and cause a delay in operation. While each park has a different method for handling guest illnesses, all parks usually delay operations in some sort to clean up after the guest illness that has occurred and to accommodate the guest. While there are no issues with the ride itself, guest illnesses may cause a delay that temporarily suspends all operations of the ride so that the associates can handle the situation. At some parks, they may cycle the ride around empty a few times to ensure that it is fully cleaned off for the next guest to ride. However, there are a few unique parks, such as Disney or Universal parks, that are able to remove a ride unit and clean it to avoid a serious delay in operation. Reason number 3, exit boarding. Some guests may need to board through the exit for a variety of reasons, which include parent swap, alternate access, exit vouchers, or other unique reasons in which a park permits guests to board a ride through its exit. This can be extremely helpful to a guest, but it could also cause a slight delay in operations. Most rides are unfortunately designed without exit boarding in mind, so the guests that are boarding through the exit will have to push through riders that are exiting from the previous ride cycle. Other parks will wait until all of the guests move through the exit and then proceed to load the guests boarding through the exit. These processes do not take a long amount of time, however they can happen constantly on a busy day, which will result in a line taking more time than normal. Reason number 4, guests who do not hear or listen to operator instructions. At most rides, there are audible loading instructions when approaching the ride boarding area or while the loading process is occurring. Different parks have different ways of spieling to riders, from unique auto spiels to associates spieling over a microphone. These spiels are meant to provide important instructions to riders on how to safely and efficiently board the ride. Unfortunately, many guests do not listen to these spiels or instructions by the operators. Guests are often distracted by their cell phones, other members of their party, or other distractions that cause them to miss important information, such as when they can step through the loading gates, how they can secure their restraint, and where they can place their loose articles if a ride provides a storage device. These instructions are designed to provide a more efficient boarding process, but when guests ignore these instructions, it can significantly decrease the efficiency of the loading process and result in a slower moving line. Reason number 5, loose articles. Loose articles are surprisingly one of the biggest slowdowns to a ride loading procedure. A lot of rides offer bins or cubbies to store loose items while guests are on the ride. However, these bins can be relied upon a little bit too much, as large numbers of guests use the bins during each ride cycle. Restraint checks cannot take place if a guest is not in their seat. When a lot of guests use the bins at one time, it furthers the amount of time it takes for the guests to return to their seats. This problem can be simply solved by each party only having one member of their party drop off and pick up all loose items from the bins, while the remainder of the party boards or exits the ride. Overall, rides that do not have on-platform storage systems tend to have faster dispatches. Some of the best examples of this include Velocicoaster, the Incredible Hulk coaster, and Steel Vengeance. Other rides have an opposite method of handling loose articles that allow everything to ride with the guest, and they still operate efficiently. Some examples of this include Space Mountain, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, and Iron Dragon. Finally, other rides have a hybrid model, where large loose articles such as backpacks, stuffed animals, and other loose items must be left in a locker or with a non-rider and are not permitted in line or on the ride. However, small loose items such as phones, keys, and wallets may ride with the rider, but may not be left on the ride platform during the ride. This is a widely used policy on most major roller coasters in the Cedar Fair chain. Most of the delays from loose articles come from guests securing their loose items. The issue with these delays is that they happen on almost every ride cycle and can significantly increase a ride's wait time. While loose article delays are mostly short delays that happen very often, there's also the possibility that a ride may have to temporarily suspend operations due to a guest losing a valuable item while on the ride. Each park has their own procedure for this, but most will only suspend operations if the lost item impacts a guest's health or well-being. The most efficient way to handle loose articles on a ride is to properly secure or store all loose items before boarding the ride so that when it's time to board, there's no delay caused by a loose article. Reason number 6, improper training. Most large parks have their own standardized method for training their ride operators. While each park has different procedures, they're all designed to be safe and efficient. Some parks even go one step further and require that all of their ride operators go through a specialized training course such as the International Ride Operator Certification, or IROC, in addition to the ride training procedures. Courses like IROC are designed to provide standard operating procedures that can be applied to working at almost any modern-day ride. However, even with IROC's simple and safe training methods, it's up to each individual park to provide ride-specific training. This is where most improper training occurs. Most parks rely on their ride's leadership and trainers to train new ride operators to the standards designed by the park. However, none of these procedures can be put into play properly if they're not being trained and enforced correctly. What is even worse is that deviance from the training procedures often results in less efficient operations. A prime example of a policy that could be deviated from is IROC's load and go procedure, which requires that the loading area be secured before restraint checks can begin. In addition, after the area is secured, there can be no new guests permitted to enter the ride area. This procedure has been found time and time again to be very safe and efficient when trained and followed correctly. But if operators are not trained properly, and they reopen the loading gates after they've been closed, it will inevitably result in a delayed dispatch time that makes the line move slower. Another factor that could impact training is when a trainer does not train an associate or ride crew to work efficiently. Successful training with efficiency in mind can minimize or even resolve most of the issues that I discussed earlier in this video. A prime example of a crew that was trained efficiently was the 2022 Steel Vengeance crew. This crew was trained not only to move with a purpose, but also to solve any issues that could slow down a dispatch before it arrived at the platform. The result of the thorough training was a new ridership record for Steel Vengeance, where the crew reached 1 million riders in one season for the first time in the ride's history. To conclude, guests can do their part to keep lines moving by reading safety guide signs at the entrances to rides and paying attention to instructions given. Slowdowns when loading and unloading rides is inevitable, but guests as well as parks have a role in preventing them whenever possible so that everyone can enjoy a shorter line and a better experience.